What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! I think that the portion of my blood that's Native American really informs my personality probably more than most things inside of me.
Okay.
It's important for people to understand that many, many people, when they look at the American flag, aren't exactly going, oh yeah, that's the best.
Right.
And that's also very American to do that. It's also super liberal to do that. You should be looking to look at it.
To acknowledge that it's not, that it doesn't necessarily represent the best.
Yeah. I mean, the very first thing that liberals are supposed to be doing is looking at the top of whatever hierarchy they're involved in and look at the thing that's most likely to abuse them the most. And that's the people that are in charge.
That's right.
And so and that means the country itself is in the nation and the army, a standing army. And those are things that liberals need to be concerned about, not paranoid, but concerned about. So looking at the flag, and going, yeah, I mean, it's cool, but yeah, I'm not going to just fall down on my knees over this thing. And the same thing with, anything that's sort of a foundation to the institution of the United States of America. Okay, these documents really important, but like we don't have to treat them as the center of everything. At one point, capitalism was an innovation, right? At one point, that was an innovation that was better than the kings have all the wealth and you eat shit.
Yeah,
it was a social innovation. At one point, America and the founding of America and those documents were a social innovation. Yep. They weren't just the mechanisms of white landowners trying to fuck everybody over. They were a social innovation to go from something that was worse to something that was less bad. And so that sort of a nuance is outside of the minds of the Fern Fervin type people. I'm not, and I think it's all just commentary. Personally, I think it's all just commentary. We're moving in another direction, and those principles should be able to defeat the previous ignorances, and we're just kind of moving forward. Let's move on to. Do you have any other thoughts on that before I move on to another?
Well, the only other thought I was going to, because I know I'm happy to rib the anti-gun crowd sometimes, but I also, when you talked about how people look at the flag, and because you got the patriots sick to death of the freaking self-proclaimed patriots who think they get to determine what's patriotic and what's not, right? And are afraid to admit that anything's wrong with the way that they think about things and the way that they treat people. Right. It drives me up a wall. On those days when I choose to give it some brain cycles. I try not to too often, though, to be a quiet.
Yeah, well, I mean, defining what makes an illegitimate American, that's the move of the people that are saying that white people keep black people down, right? That is those types of white people, that's their move. They define the boundary of what makes not just a legitimate American, but what makes a legitimate person. That they're still doing it. It might not be as overtly racist, or maybe some people might say it's not racist and it's just biased. It's quiet racism, whatever, but they're still fucking doing it. They still are fucking doing it. And that's why it's aggravating.
Agreed.
And I also agree that the gun has been used to hold black people down, because the gun is used to hold everybody that's not in the group, the preferred group, the gun is used to hold them down. It's still a fact.
Yeah.
The cops have guns. The cops are a part of an equation of social coercion that every human society uses, and the cops are at the end of it. Now, I'm not saying cops don't do good. I'm not saying cops can't be good, but they are. They're the gun at the end of a system that is going to press down. That's what's going to happen.
That's their job, right?
Correct.
I mean, because every law that's written has behind it the threat of the use of force to make you comply.
Yes.
And they are the force.
They are the force, and that we have a problem with equity in terms of the application of that pressure. It is still a fucking problem. It's a giant problem. The gun is used to hold black people down. I completely agree. But then you go to these other places. I don't agree with wherever those other theories are.
Right. And the last point I'll make, and then we can move on, is that even through all of that, there are times when black people have used guns to keep themselves from being oppressed, right? Obviously, Harriet Tubman, story I learned about a few years ago, gentleman out of Detroit by the name of Dr. Ossian Sweet.
Dr. Sweet. Chad King brings up Dr. Sweet a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I was thrilled to learn that story. And it was by far not the only story. So that being said, we can
and I'll just put the exclamation point on this, because I can take this risk and go over, because I'm the executive director and I'm a white guy. Yeah. I can do this. After the years-long anthropologic assessment of humans and projectile weapons and social coercion and what happens in societies and all of that, I know there are many African Americans out there that live in a city. Well, this is what we're going to talk about, the assault weapons ban next, which is good. So this is a good dovetail. A lot of the African Americans who live around the city, you can't have a semi-automatic rifle, or it's highly restricted or whatever. So I understand that, and you have to do what you have to do. But based on my anthropologic assessment, if you're a liberal, or if you're black, or if you're a black liberal, I don't really care. If you're any of those things, I would say do not let yourself or people that you love go into the future without owning a semi-automatic rifle, a rifle, not a pistol, a rifle, magazine fed. You know how to use it, you know how to keep it safe, and you know how to represent it well. I would recommend that one of the best things that you can do for empowerment is do not go into the future without that particular mechanism. There's a reason for it. It's a long conversation. It's a long conversation.
It's fine.
But if you can have one of those and be good with it and have it, keep it safe and represent it well, please have it. Please use it. Not the pistol. I also have a pistol, but I'm saying there's something about that particular implement anthropologically that's really, really important. Particularly the things that we're looking at and facing, I would not go into the future with them. But I would also say, do not go into the future without considering how it is that you can start a business, be creative, earn more money,
Absolutely.
Get more power with your creativity, with your finances, with your collaboration with other humans. Because whatever coercive power a rifle might give you, these other things are superior to that. Your brain.
Absolutely.
Your creativity, the money that you have access to, the people that you're working with, like all of those things. So I want to put that exclamation point on that whole.
No, that is one leg of a multi-leg platform that you have to care for all of the legs. I agree completely.
And again, I'll say the rifle, semi-auto, magazine fed for sure. So since we're doing that, let's move into the Protect Illinois Communities Act.
Yes, PICA.
A sweeping ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines. State lawmakers passed in January
of 2023.
Yeah, and that people had to register or turn them in, right, or whatever that was
by January 30th
of this year
of 2024. That's correct.
This isn't like previously owned ARs or semi-automatics were not grandfathered or anything like that. Like they all need to be registered or turned or sold or turned in, right?
That's right. Or moved out of state.
We then have a bunch of sheriffs in the state signing a petition saying we're not going to be enforcing this.
That's right.
And then we have
Don't believe them, by the way.
but they said that.
They said that.
And there have been some district court type activities, and to date, the Supreme Court of the United States has refused to hear anything about it. They're letting it. Letting it.
That's correct.
So, what are your thoughts on PICA and all of this stuff?
Well, I mean, I know where it comes from. It comes from a place of they want to do something to stop the problems, right? Because it got legs after the Highland Park shooting on July 4th of 2022, right? And it was horrible, right? Some goofy kid. I mean, goofy is the word too. You know, he went up and shot up a bunch of folks at the doggone, Independence Day parade, and then basically turned himself in because he couldn't find a way to escape. He was too chicken shit to kill himself. So it comes from a good place, but obviously it's misguided. As with any gun control legislation, they only serve to disarm the people who are honest and the people who are least likely to violate others with their rifle, assault weapon, whatever you want to call it, right? I was actually surprised to see that Illinois was actually willing to put this forward, given the state of play around all the other assault weapons bans that had been put out by different states and kind of churning their way through the courts. But they did. They were willing to do it, and they call themselves heroes for doing it. And they do believe that it's going to save lives. That's what we've been told. Mm-hmm. I'm anxious to see what, if the Supreme Court will accept the case for, full review for the 2024 to 25 session. But it has been submitted. I think there's a new request to have another injunction put in place that went out like a week ago. I don't hold much hope it'll get much legs though. But nonetheless, I mean that's kind of where I see things. I don't think it's going to give the benefit that people are hoping for, because for one thing, there's a lot of guns on the streets already, and guns are built to last, right? They don't crash and burn after 3, 4, 5 years. Even with minimal maintenance and heavy abuse, they still run pretty well for a long time. And so the guns that are out there are going to continue to be out there in the wrong hands. Right. And there's guns, people, obviously, they get guns from different places, right? From stealing from houses, stealing from cars. Some come in from other states, though the data I've seen says that that's not the predominance of the issue. The predominance of the issue that is about guns that are sold within a certain proximity of the area you live in. So, I think there are things that we probably should be doing differently. I don't believe gun bans is the way, though. But I do believe that having more stringent background checks could not hurt. And I think that, having some requirements, of course, this gets to be kind of iffy, right? Iffy from a legal perspective, because it requires a certain amount of not foreknowledge of who has what guns. I think it would be okay to ask people to, show their guns to a certain group on some annual basis or biannual basis, right? To make sure that it hasn't been sold, because people sell guns. And that's the other thing. I mean, people don't talk about it much, but all crime guns are not just from theft. There are people that buy guns with the expectation that they're going to sell it on the street and they'll double their money. And, I'm aware of people who've done that, anecdotally, because, when I lived in Plainfield, there was a guy who moved in next to me. He was a cop, and he told me about, his investigation into the property he bought. Well, there was a report of a gun theft from that property. And I'm here to tell you that house was not broken into, right? The person that owned the house, and they weren't that much. I mean, I met them. They weren't around much, but I'm sure they bought them guns with the expectation of selling them to the streets. And it probably wasn't the first time, and it probably wasn't the last. So, absolutely, right? So that's why I say, hey, well, if you own certain weapons, you should probably have to account for their whereabouts on some regular basis. Anyway, that's my thoughts, man. That's my thoughts.
Well, it certainly goes to show that there's a complexity here.
Yes, sir.
So we have an issue.
Absolutely.
And the issue is, as liberal gun owners, we have an issue. And that issue is we want people to be able to own semi-automatic pistols and semi-automatic rifles. We want people to be able to own those things. But we want the people that shouldn't have those things to not own them.
And we want the people who own them, but they're struggling with some issues, to temporarily disarm themselves voluntarily.
I think one of the best contributors to long-term health for the situation is for many liberal gun owners to own semi-automatic rifles and represent them well. Represent them well as a person and train with them and use them, treat them safely, treat them well. I think that's one of the best overall contributions that can happen for the nexus between guns and public safety. That's completely entirely, improvement from the inside of gun culture, right? That's not something that gun control people give a shit about. They want to inflict the ideas from the outside, and they basically want to, even though they say, we don't want to take away your guns, we don't want to restrict the right, the entire gun control platform is an advertisement, for sure, of British level gun control.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it is. They want the epidemiological, criminological result that they think is going to come from British level constriction.
That's right.
Because the amount of results that you get from laws in general, just laws, isn't much. Like it's a bit, like somewhat here and there, yeah.
Right.
But you get a bit. So they believe in more is more is more is more is more. And that's really not ever going to stop. So they must...
Right.
What they want from these laws simply must come from something that ends up closer to British level constriction. Mm-hmm. That's the only place where on paper their hypothesis matches the projected result.
Sure.
Is more and more and more and more and more.
So let's talk about that for a second, right? Because looking at that from the devil's advocate perspective, I go, well, what's wrong with that? And I'll tell you what's wrong with it. What's wrong with it is it changes the dynamic to say, hey, you get less people that are shot. Doesn't mean less people that are harmed. Now, could it mean less people that are killed? Potentially. Absolutely. Yes, sir. I agree with that. Could it mean less mass shootings? Potentially. Maybe. I mean, but it's such a difficult to achieve goal because, like I say, we know there's, I think, conservatively estimated about 450 million guns in America, probably in the area of 40 to 60 million assault weapons or semi-automatic rifles, those AR-15 or AK-47 types. So if with those kind of numbers, it's because it only takes one goofy kid who's having a bad week to go and unleash mayhem on a school to start this whole conversation all over again, right? And we see it 3 or 4 times a year. I mean, there are so quote unquote some type of mass shooting every day, to be quite honest with you, right? Between street crime and different things that happen at parties or whatever, right? This thing in Kansas City last week appeared to be, and from all I can tell right now, appears to be a beef between some kids, but they unleashed themselves shooting at each other around, 20,000, 25,000 people celebrating the Chiefs Super Bowl victory. So, they barely hit each other. I think one of them got shot in the face. I did hear that. But most of the rest of the shots hit innocent kids and killed a lady. And that's all it takes is one outbreak of that type. And people go, see, no more guns, period. Screw your rights. And
because mass shootings are not going to be highly mitigated by the gun control platform. They simply won't. And that part of the issue there is that if the Democrats would just put gun control second behind behavioral prevention, behind primary prevention, or other secondary preventions that are superior to what I would think maximized what gun control could bring in a petri dish.
Yeah.
then they'd have a better case. But the problem is they pimp gun control as the panacea to mass shootings, and it's just never, ever going to deliver them what they're thinking or they're advertising, or perhaps some of them know that's the case.
They know it. They know it.
But you are not going to have mass shootings stopped by assault weapons ban. We're not going to have a federal exam, like how things are in California is not ever going to wash all the way across the country. That's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, they can push and push and push and push, and they're just going to get there. I would not think that they would get less mass shootings. Generally, they would just get less casualty counts in certain events. They would get lower casualty counts because the shooters were forced to use other types of other weapons types, other firearms types.
Right.
You're not going to see that happen. The mitigation of these events and the frequency of these events through the assault weapons ban.
Right. I mean, well, and see, if I go back to the Kansas City thing for a second too, right? Because their focus is on assault weapons, right? AR-15s, AK-47s. That's, as we know, most mass shootings actually aren't done with those weapons, right? Less than half. And so, and we know that in Kansas City, they probably use pistols, because you haven't heard a single word that's been said about any type of weapon that was used that day. I've heard nothing.
Well, facts really don't
No.
This is facts work for beliefs,
right?
Is what this is about. Facts work for ideology, and
right.
They'll include them. They'll not include them. They'll be right about a lot of things. They'll just muddy the water. So what I keep bringing to the table is this. Everyone talks like they know what's up.
Yep.
They know the answer.
Yep.
And they don't. They don't.
Yep.
The law and policymaking is perspective by nature. They're projecting into the future and saying it will do something, and it misleads the country because the chances that it is going to do something like they say is simply not true. Do I have the answer? I've been staring at this professionally for 5 years straight. Nope, because it isn't there. The answer is not there. These studies that gun control people are pimping, I'm highly skeptical of a lot of the correlations that they're claiming. I'm highly skeptical, and you should be highly skeptical of it. And part of that is, we don't actually study guns well. Like we don't have great data, and they're right. We don't have great data. Then that is kind of part of the problem.
Yep.
And I think we'd have better data, and we'd have a chance of getting better data if gun control wasn't in charge. Like if there was another approach other than we're going to choke the shit out of this thing no matter what happens, and we're just going to use the data to choke the shit out of it. Right. If they had another approach, there would be much more openness, I think, to getting more data and more studying and more financing. And I think the gun owning world would be much more open to it.
I agree.
But they want to keep pressing on it and stepping on the gas. This is an interesting, we don't have any solutions for what has happened in Illinois, but this is an interesting mix of things. And I think we can expect more of the same, even if these sheriffs are just blowing hot air and saying, we're not going to enforce this.
So to elaborate on that point, the thing that they've said clearly is that they will not pursue a person if the only allegation against them is they haven't complied with PICA. But I guarantee you, if they arrest them for something else and they find that they didn't comply with PICA, they'll be slap that on there. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They'll slap that and everything else they can, because that's what they do. Right. That's how they make a living. Right. So I get it. But yeah, so most of these guys aren't going to use that as a primary enforcement vehicle, and that's okay. I respect them for making the statement. I do. I guess the thought that's going through my head right now is back on the, how do we insulate ourselves? Because again, you will never stop mass shootings. I don't think there's ever been a thing that as a culture we've learned that we all said we don't want to do that no more, and we just stop. Nothing. You can't name one thing, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's smoking, drinking, snorting coke, shooting guns, killing people, stabbing, whatever. Once as a culture we learn how to do a thing, we never forget it. We never forget it. It just doesn't happen. So those things will always be with us. But that's why it's on us, right, to do the best we can as gun owners, as homeowners, as parents of students who go to a school, as members of different churches or whatever, synagogue or whatever your house of worship may be, to put safeties in place where you can. Let's be aware.
Yeah.
Let's put insulation in place. Let's do things like get bulletproof glass where we can afford it, right? Let's have a lockout procedure. Let's have evacuation drills. Let's have a team that knows how to respond to somebody who's trying to attack the church, who's trying to attack the school, right? Have lockdown drills. And, obviously I know lockdown drills have a bad name from different people who've done them poorly, but it's not the kind of thing you should never do. It has to be done because, like I say, just like we have fire drills, you have to have lockdown drills because, no, you don't want to scare kids, but you want to equip the kids to say, this thing can happen, but it doesn't have to kill you if you know what to do. If you have an idea.
At the very minimum, there need to be systems in place that are bottom-up systems that take place in the home, in the neighborhood, in the church, in the school. So this is something that I commented on recently.
But that's a layer, right? That's a layer.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. It's one layer of many. Right. That what people, entertainers, people that are on the media, news people, journalists, activists, Taylor Swift, right? They what they are saying is pass gun control policy so we can solve this and get back to living the way that we live and doing nothing. There isn't a single solution to mass shootings where that happens because laws can't do that. They can't. Not just gun laws, not just gun policy. Right. Government can't intervene in social behavior to a degree to stop this. That's why it will take gun. I'm not saying it doesn't take gun laws. Right. I'm saying, there probably will. Mm-hmm. But there have to be top-down things happening and then bottom-up things happening. And that's the only way we can mitigate this. And it's still not going to fucking stop it.
And sideways things and diagonal things, right?
Right.
I mean, because, like the schools, right? They've been trying to teach the message of, hey, let's be friendly with all of our peers. Let's be aware of those kids who, may appear to not have any kind of support community that they're part of, right? Mm-hmm. And let's try to bring them into the fold, or let's try to, make sure that, we do something to prop them up at school and at home if we can. Yeah. And likewise, home has to do their part, love your child. Yeah. Make them feel important, right? Let them know that they are your world, that they're important to you, and let them know that their existence and their happiness means something to you, right? So that they feel like they can engage with a parent and ask for help when they need help, rather than falling into the depths of depression and feeling lost in this world, right? I mean, that's another layer. Yeah, that's another layer. Kids got to love on each other. Parents got to love on the kids, and we gotta not be afraid to get people help when they ask for help. I mean, that's one of the things that's shocking about the situation with the kid in Detroit, outside of Detroit, that shot up the school a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. His mother's trial just finished, right? His father's trial starts, I think, this month or early next month, and it seems like the conclusion that they reached is this kid was screaming for help. Yeah, and his parents didn't get him any help. What they do? They bought him a gun. Right. And said, this is yours. Now, of course, they tried to lock it up. They did a poor job of that, apparently. But yeah, that part is heartbreaking because that shooting didn't have to happen. No. People did not have to die.
There are a number of these mass shootings where substandard parenting is a major contributing factor. And that's why, experts like John Van Driel say, look, that's going to happen. We probably can't control all of that. That's why the school matters, because if you can just make one connection with that kid, with one pro-social adult, you can stop a mass shooting. You can stop a school shooting. One teacher, the janitor, the SRO, the gym teacher, one connection like that kid can have can stop a mass shooting. And this is from the experts. So as we see, it's like you said, bottom up, sideways, diagonal, top down, every way. But
Every way, man.
that requires social leadership. And this is my problem with it. And I'm saying this is why it's not going to happen until things change. You need leaders, and we don't have them. Like, they don't exist. We are highly divisive. Our leaders are toxified from this dysfunctional tribal political reality we have. The internet's spinning people up. Yeah. So this is another reason why you can throw gun control at this shit all day. And go ahead. I'm just saying, go ahead. Like, go ahead and pass your assault weapons ban. What am I going to do? I'm small potatoes. Right. But go ahead. You're going to notice that it doesn't change. And when it doesn't change, you're going to blame the NRA and blame lobbying and blame gun owners. Yes. And it's going to be because
and blame other states with lax laws and all that kind of stuff.
People believe that policy operates as a panacea, and it doesn't. Nope. And so the only thing I can throw in the arena is like, there's one gun organization in America that has a leader that will stand up and say that. Like, go for it, right? I just know that, number one, you'll never get me to say from my cold dead hands, my guns are so important. It's not my problem. The negative things that happen with guns are not my problem. That's bullshit. They are my problem. I'm an American.
Right.
I'm an American. Right. They're my problem.
Right. Absolutely.
But also, policy is not going to solve this. Everybody, it's all hands on deck. It's the only way, and you need leaders to do that. And what does policy as panacea? Why is gun control a big problem? Why is it a big hindrance as a solution? It is a big hindrance because it is a social political juggernaut that is advertising to America that it is possible to solve this through gun control. And if we can just get gun control solved, everybody can go back to living the way that they were. That is terrible social leadership. It's not that I don't believe gun laws can help. They can. But selling it as panacea so everybody can go back to normal. Sorry. But that's why Joe Biden is not the leader of people.
Yeah. No, I and people are all in on it too, man. They're like, yes, we should be doing this. We should have done this years ago. And they'll tell you, we had an assault weapons ban from 94 to 2004, and it worked. It worked.
So it didn't.
Bullshit. I mean, you got two big issues there, right? One is mass shootings were hardly a thing before the assault weapons ban was passed at all. And then number two is the data has been so manipulated and castrated that it's hard to make heads or tails out of it without really going back and unraveling it from the beginning.
It means nothing in regards to the mass shootings.
I agree.
Because that cultural script didn't start until the early 2000s, right? Until well after the sunset. So it means nothing. And the other thing is, when you actually spend time with both of those studies that the DOJ did, that Christopher Koper did, these people talk, even both sides. The gun absolutists do the same thing. They speak in absolutes, both sides. They say that there's a determinant inside of those studies, that there's a scientific determinant, like this is what is up. There's no language like that inside of those studies at all. There's not a single shred of that kind of conviction in those studies. What Koper said was, there's no way to determine whether or not the general downward trend in violence, because these are not studies for mass shootings. This is about gun violence. That's what the studies are about. Did they affect gun violence? And Koper said there is no indication whatsoever that the already decreasing trend in gun violence was affected by the assault weapons ban. There's no way to determine it. He did say there are some suggestions here that if we keep going, that we might be able to see that that's somewhat the case. That's all he said. That is the essence of those two studies. What do you hear politicians and activists on both sides saying? They're both, it's definitive on both sides. It's bullshit. It's not a definitive, those are not definitive scientific studies. They give us a super light, barely helpful suggestion. I've spent so much time with those studies. But in any event, here we are again. Where you and I, and what we're stating to these people that are listening is, look, don't buy into it. If you want problem solving, then just have an open mind and think about what we might be able to do, what we can do. And my opinion has been, I just spent so much money and so much time finding the thing that if you spend time in it, it might give us the best bang for a buck. and that is student threat assessment, behavioral threat assessment inside of schools. The other thing would be suicide prevention things, two sides of the same coin. If you do both of those things, you're doing the most that you can do. Gun control, gun laws, yes. Which ones is a long conversation. Gun control as it is, nope. Not where it's at. Do you have any other thoughts, Linwood? We're kind of getting up at the point where this is where everybody starts getting scrambled eggs for brains. So, do you have any other thoughts for today?
Yeah. No. I think I got out earlier. I mean, we talked about the layers. The layers are important, right? Because like I say, I do put a lot of focus on this from a church perspective, right? Because like I go to a fairly good sized church, and it's the biggest African American church in this part of the county. And not that necessarily makes us a target for anything, but to some people it stands out. And so we put together a group that focuses on church security. And we have, processes in place to try to give us some amount of insulation, should someone decide that they want to try to, sneak in and do an attack. I use the word sneak in terms of people that cloak themselves as ordinary parishioners when they may have alternative motives, right? I come at it from that perspective, right? And I think it's a similar thing. Right, the threat assessment model comes into play. Who are potential threats? Why would they, be there? What things are they doing that's out of the ordinary? So on and so forth. I mean, the normal stuff. Anyway, that's
comprehensive and layers. There's no single agent way, single vector to deal with this. Yeah. So I hope people can take from that.
I guess my last statement on that, to quote Cat Williams, is, what do you do when somebody start a mass shooting? You shoot back.